callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Welcome to the Ask the Experts show with local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Enjoy being educated in such topics as personal injury law, community association law, family law, bankruptcy law, along with health show topics like pain management, men's health, and dental implants. Now, sit back and enjoy today's Ask the Experts with host Steve-O.
And happy Monday to you. I'm Rhonda filling in for Steve-O. Tonight it's my pleasure to have on Josh Whistler of Whistler Law Firm. He is our property damage legal expert, and hopefully he will not get business this year. I'm joking a lot, Josh. Hopefully the hurricanes are going to be very mild this year, but what's your prediction on that?
Well, all the measurements and reports that are coming out are saying it's going to be a pretty active season, and we'll see. This is the first time, or at least I'm remembering, of this Saharan dust storm. So I'm not sure what type of effect that's going to have. But like I said, all the reports and everything we're seeing from the meteorologists are predicting a very active season.
I don't know if you have allergies, but I've definitely noticed an increase in my allergies since this dust storm's been blowing around. Do you have allergies?
Yeah, I see people with asthma and sneezing, and then everybody gets scared. Oh, you must have COVID. So
Yeah, I know. It's like
everyone's
I was in a store the other day with my mask and I had an allergy sneeze, and Lord, I got looked at like I needed to leave. I was in trouble. I was like, hey, allergies, I swear. You know? So you think
very
this year,
common now.
do you think this year we're going to get hit with some storms this summer? I mean, I know there was some
It's
predictions too.
it's the most unpredictable thing. We've already had a couple named storms that were some of the earliest that were ever recorded. So that gave more concern to the experts that this was going to be very active. But I mean, just like we saw last year, that massive storm that was expected to have a direct hit, here on us in South Florida, and then at the last minute, it just stalled over the Bahamas, and then took a turn north. So it's one of those things that nobody knows, but you have to prepare, and that's what I tell my clients all the time. You got to prepare for the worst and hope for the best, and now is the time to start preparing. You don't want to wait until September rolls around, when historically that's when the big storms do occur down here. You want to get all your supplies, review your policies, and make sure that if something does happen and the power is out for weeks, that you and your family are going to be as safe as possible.
I will say one thing. I used to work in a medical supply industry, and we would have to basically we were looking at disaster preparedness for hospitals. What happens if your oxygen tank goes down? And we actually used to model some of our preparedness manuals on some things that Florida did, because Florida is actually quite prepared when it comes to disasters because they've had years of hurricanes. So I do feel at least, what's the word? Lucky that I do live in a state that from a state level, I feel like we'll be prepared. But as an individual, you also have to do your part and get your water and be able to survive, X number of days until, help does arrive. How many days supply of food would you recommend that people have, and water?
So usually people say you want to have at least 3 days. I would say at least a week.
A week of water, a week of food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I always tell people, every single time you go to a big box store, so where you're at Costco, BJ's, Walmart, um, always take an additional gallon of water, or sometimes they got the 2-pack or the 6-pack. Take an additional one and then put it in a designated place in your house that's just for your hurricane preparedness area, and then you just slowly are stocking that up. So when time when it does come, I mean, I remember a couple of years ago, you just have a mad panic and they're going to ration out the supplies. So what's the point of going through that stress? Just do it now. It's simple. you designate I designate a closet in my house, and that's if we're running low on something else, for our daily needs, you're not allowed to go in the hurricane closet. That's only for hurricane related matters, and you got to be disciplined with it. So, if everyone did that, there'd be a lot less stress, leading up to that big storm.
I've cheated before and went to the hurricane. But it is important, I think, with those plastic bottles, you need to make sure you're rotating those out, because you don't want to have plastic bottles that you're drinking from a year ago or whatever, where it's just sitting in the plastic. So that's one thing. I do try to rotate those waters.
Yeah, and I've said it, on the show before, that anything that you don't use from last year, obviously, if it's still, edible and still usable, you can always donate those goods to, a local food pantry or people in need, canned goods or, any water that's not too old that you want to replenish. Definitely give it as a donation.
Now, Josh, you've lived down here, I think you said 20 some years before. I imagine you've had some hurricane experience where you've been weeks without power. Like, how long was it for you?
So I haven't been here 20 years, but sometimes it feels like it. But yeah, so that's the biggest concern, and FPL in different parts of the state, there are different energy utility companies. So every year they say they're getting better, but nobody I know, unless you live right next to a hospital, has power after a major storm. So it goes, the last storm, I think we were out for at least a week. And that's the biggest issue that people don't prepare for, because you might look around and say, okay, I still got a roof over my head. But if you don't have the supplies and you don't have access to the supplies, that's where a lot of people, face those hard issues and decisions of what to do when they're caring for their family.
Yeah, preparedness is always important.
Yeah, and also remember, we've had a big influx of people that want to come to our state, right? So they're moving from all other parts of the country, and they've never experienced hurricanes. So they don't necessarily know how to prepare, what to look out for, and what to do post-storm. So you might say, hey, a lot of us have had experiences, we know what to do, but there's so many new Floridians that have never experienced it that, are going to be the first ones that really face those difficult issues, because they've just never been through a storm like we have.
They'll learn pretty quick when the water and the bread's out. So talking about preparedness, let's talk about what you can do ahead of time regarding your policy, what you should look for, so that you hopefully don't have to duke it out with your insurance company later.
Sure. Look, we've been very successful in the court systems protecting our clients, homeowners, business owners, any property owners, in dealing with their insurance companies. So the insurance companies, got smart, and they said, well, if we can't beat you in the court, let's just change our policies. And every single year, the policies are covering less and less and less issues, which leave the homeowners really unprotected. So it's so important to review your policy. You wouldn't believe how many policies I've seen that have no, water damage coverage, or might not even have, hurricane coverage, or people in flood zones that don't have flood insurance. So there's so many carve-outs that it's really important to review your policy, and don't be fooled by thinking that you have a full coverage policy, because that terminology is it's a term. It doesn't actually mean you have full coverage. So you want to be dealing with somebody that understands policies and that is not just selling you a policy for the cheapest price, because you will have lots of policies where it might save you $10 on your premium, but you're in effect losing tens of thousands of dollars on potential coverage. So you want to be smart on the types of coverages that you have.
Right. And does your firm offer any services where you would look at that for folks or ahead of time?
So we always offer free policy reviews to anybody that contacts us. And majority of the time, we find gaps in their policies and then let the policy owners know, hey, it would make sense for you to contact your broker or contact a different broker and ask them the questions highlighting of the gaps that we've pointed out in their policies.
And so when you find these gaps, like, does it cost the client a lot more to go and have to get more coverage to fill in this gap?
So no, like I said, a lot of the times it will be a matter of, $10, maybe at the most $100. But I tell you, I'd rather spend an additional $100 a year to have $50,000 in additional coverage.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunately it's too late most of the times that people do contact me when I do review their policy because it's usually after the fact.
We're going to take a quick commercial break, but tell folks how to find you.
Sure, you can look us up on Google, Facebook, our website, and call us at 561-299-4523. That's my direct line. I'd be happy to help you in any of your property damage needs.
When we come back, we're going to continue talking with Josh about property damage and how to prevent basically having to fight with our insurance company and what to look for in our policies. Right back after this message.
At the Whistler firm, they represent homeowners and water mitigation companies against insurance companies who have denied or underpaid claims resulting from property damage. Attorney Whistler is a strong advocate for the policyholder in cases against property insurance companies and will aggressively fight for his clients to ensure a timely and favorable settlement on their behalf. They strive to provide a small firm experience with big firm results. The Whistler Law Firm will help you maximize your compensation. Attorney Whistler is aware of the complicated process of insurance claims and litigation, and to this end, his clients can expect to receive professional, individualized attention as he works tirelessly to provide them with a positive outcome on their claim. Insurance company's #1 priority is to pay you the least amount possible. At the Whistler Law Firm, their main goal is to get you the most money for your claim. Contact the Whistler Law Firm today at 561-299-4523 and let them get you the most for your claim. That's 561-299-4523.
And we are back with Ask the Experts and Josh Whistler. Josh, okay, so let's say we've survived a storm and we've got a leaking roof. What's step one?
So step one is to document your damage. I've seen it so many times before where the insurance company, by the time they get out to inspect the property, you might not have that active leak, or there might be certain things that have changed because you've repaired it or you've patched it, and then the insurance company will, majority of the time, come back and say, oh, well, we don't have proof that the storm caused this. It might have occurred prior to the storm. So you want to be able to go out if it's safe, obviously, take a picture with the damage, take some videos, and document the damage as best you can. Number two would be to then put the insurance company on notice that you do have a loss. So if you're working with somebody like me, we would handle that for you, or you would find out what the number is through your agent or broker to contact the insurance company to let them know that there's a loss. Insurance companies tend to like to deny your claim based on a lack of prompt notice. Now, it's funny because they don't define what prompt notice is, but they're looking for any which way to deny your claim. So it's always best to call in the claim as soon as possible.
And having you as representative, how much quicker do you get an answer from the insurance company, basically a response? Is it expedited with your involvement?
Yeah, it tends to be, because if they don't respond to it, they have a legal duty to respond timely to the insurance company, to the policyholders or their representatives. And if they don't, we just use the legal system to put the pressure on. So we can file something called a civil remedy notice, which puts the state on notice that the insurance company is not acting in good faith. And they get notice of that immediately. And 9 out of 10 times, they respond to us after receiving that. So those are some tools that we use to make sure that the insurance company is responding timely to our clients.
Does the client pay you up front, or you're only paid if they win their case?
It's a contingency agreement. So we only get paid if the client is able to obtain money. And if the client's not able to obtain money, or let's say, we review the policy and there's something that's, we find out after the fact that they didn't have coverage for that, or they didn't pay their premium, there would be no charge.
Let me ask you, if someone has to take their insurance company to court and they've invested all this time, are they entitled to their legal fees and the cost of damage to their property and their time, or is it just the cost of their damage?
So that's a great question. And the insurance companies are trying to take that right away every year. So thankfully, it is still Florida law that the statute is 627.428. And if you are successful in obtaining coverage for something that the insurance company tried to deny you, then the insurance company is on the hook to pay all your legal fees.
Oh, that's great. Now you're involved with what new statutes and things. What's changing? What are some things that I think you actually go to these meetings and try to figure out, what the feeling is on what's changing and what's new. Can you give us an idea about that?
Sure. So, like I said before, the insurance companies are always trying to, if not in the court system, trying to change the laws through the Florida legislature or through the policies themselves. So we've seen a lot of whittling down of rights, which has been unfortunate. Last year there was the big change in the assignment of benefits law, which limited the ability for homeowners or business owners to what we call assigned benefits. So that's basically letting a contractor do the work without the homeowner having to pay up front. So the legislature has changed those laws to make it much more difficult for that process to happen. Unfortunately, as a result of that, if we do have a new storm, I do foresee more homes being liened from contractors because they're not able to as easily obtain the benefits from the insurance company directly. So now they're going to have to go against the homeowner. So that's something that I do perceive for the next storm to be a huge issue that really never occurred previously in Florida as a result of this new statute. There are a couple other statutes that have changed, making it more difficult to, like I spoke earlier, to file a bad faith suit when appraisal is invoked. So those are a couple examples, but really to me the main issue is that every year they're changing the policy language. And right, the policy is the contract. So you pay your premiums in return for coverage. That's the legal contract, and it's based on what's actually written in the contract. And I've made this joke before, is you have a 60-page policy, you have one sentence of what's covered and 59 3/4, of the rest of it that says, well, why things are going to be excluded.
Right. Can you give us any tidbits on some sneaky language that we should be aware of?
Well, I mean, the entire policy is sneaky language. If you think about it, who's writing the policy? It's, top insurance lawyers who are making the language to be most favorable to the insurance company. So an interesting point of that is if you can find an ambiguity in the language, then the courts are supposed to find in our favor, in the homeowner's favor, because it goes against the person who actually drafted the contract. But I mean, I'll tell you some things. They always try to say prompt notice. You didn't tell us in a prompt time. And then in a deposition, we'll ask them, well, can you tell us what the definition of prompt is? Do you actually have, a manual or somewhere where it says, when are we required to put you on notice? And they'll never answer that. So that's just one hypocrisy that is used. Long-term wear and tear, that's a really common language for denial. So you've got a storm comes through and your house starts to leak. All the time, most of the time they're going to come back and say that, oh, well, your roof was already in bad shape, so we're not going to cover it. It was poor workmanship. And then our response is, well, you've been accepting the homeowner's premiums every year, right? If you're now coming and telling us that you don't want to cover these leaks because you're saying it's old damage, why have you been implying to the homeowner that their roof is covered and you're accepting their premiums every year for their roof? If you don't want to, you can't have it both ways, right? Tell the homeowner we're only going to keep coverage with you if you replace your roof, but they don't. So it's that gamesmanship that unfortunately we have to go through every single time to fight for our clients to get coverage for legitimate damages and claims.
Let's say if I have my roof repaired, I'm going to pay it. Something I paid for. Am I required to send in documentation to prove it's a new roof that I repaired that 5 years ago?
So as best as you can. Obviously, if something happened or you don't have the documentation, but it is in your policy. Now, it's in the policy at the point if you have repairs after a loss. So you're supposed to keep all your receipts and invoices after a loss to support what you're asking for. But if something happened 5 years ago, they're allowed to ask for it. But if you don't have it, it's you're not going to be penalized for that because most people are not great record keepers, whether it be for a few months or years.
Well, let's say then a storm comes and damages it. Is there any requirement or onus on me to prove that I basically had a new roof before this? If they're saying, hey, your roof was not in good standing before that?
Well, you don't necessarily have a duty to prove that, meaning to show documentation if you don't have it. But that's why I always recommend to my clients, have a roofer come out every year and inspect your roof. And if they say it needs a little, some touch-ups, that's fine. But at least you're showing that as long as it doesn't need a new replacement, that you have done everything you could to manage your property well, right? The insurance companies want to try to say that we're not a maintenance insurance, right? You have a duty to maintain your house properly. So if you do on a routinely basis have a roofer or a plumber come out, make sure everything's okay, that's great. And that's going to prevent the insurance company from saying, oh, you don't take care of your house is old, and this was bound to happen.
So you just have to keep that documentation asked for, but you don't have to necessarily hand it over the inspection to them. Okay.
Well, look, it makes our job much easier to get you paid if you have that documentation. So that's why I recommend, to have it. Obviously, if you don't have it, you don't have it. The insurance company can't require you to produce something, that happened prior to the loss. But definitely after a loss, if you have Home Depot receipts to show that you tried to mitigate your damage, and you do have a duty to mitigate your damage. So for example, if you have a pipe that busts in your house, a supply line, and it's spraying water everywhere, you can't just sit back and say, oh, well, I'm going to let my entire house fill up. That's not going to be covered. You have to try to run outside and close off the main valve. That's your duty. So the homeowner does have duties after a loss to the insurance company.
God, this 30-minute segment has flown by. Give folks your phone number again and how to find you real quick.
Sure, you could call me directly, 561-299-4523, but check us out at the web, whistlerlawfirm.com, Facebook page. We've got a lot of great free resources that can help all Floridians to prepare for the hurricane. And like I said before, we offer free policy evaluations. So who doesn't like free stuff, right?
Hey, that's great, Josh. Thank you so much again for coming on and educating us on the hurricane season. We'll talk to you next month. And we're going to be back with more expert next segment, so stick around.
At the Whistler Firm, they represent homeowners and water mitigation companies against insurance companies who have denied or underpaid claims resulting from property damage. Attorney Whistler is a strong advocate for the policyholder in cases against property insurance companies and will aggressively fight for his clients to ensure a timely and favorable settlement on their behalf. They strive to provide a small firm experience with big firm results. The Whistler Law Firm will help you maximize your compensation. Attorney Whistler is aware of the complicated process of insurance claims and litigation, and to this end, his clients can expect to receive professional, individualized attention as he works tirelessly to provide them with a positive outcome on their claim. Insurance companies' #1 priority is to pay you the least amount possible. At the Whistler Law Firm, their main goal is to get you the most money for your claim. Contact the Whistler Law Firm today at 561-299-4523 and let them get you the most for your claim. That's 561-299-4523.